I mean, Redakzia, I think we have a quite complex structure. I mean, in the sense of how we try to define it. But to put it simple, what we try to do is sort of a lab which has no territory, and which kind of stops in several spots. This time is in Gothenburg. I mean, through this territory-less lab, we have this question: what is knowledge? How is knowledge being produced? How is it being distributed? Under which formats? And so on. And in Gothenburg, we are focusing on this what we call systemic and anti-systemic educational models. Here, either in the form of universities, whether they are universities or so-called underground universities, such as Clandestino is defining themselves, but also other initiatives that have some kind of pedagogical vision that goes through their activities, like Pantrana, for example. Would you define what you do as activism or as social practice, or none of the two, or how do you feel about your work?
I see it like social, cultural, human. Yeah, social. But it will in practice it is activist work. But I don't call myself activist.
Why?
I don't know. It's not my lifestyle. I think a lot of activists have it as lifestyle.
I always find it difficult because ever since I've been politically active in different movements since early 2000 or late 1990s, I've never really associated myself personally with one ism, communism or socialism or anarchism or anything like that. But if I had to choose, if I have to put a label on myself and my politics, it would be anarchism.
When we started, the year before we started Experimenting Class, when we rebelled, we occupied the classroom. Then we said, I mean, this is our classroom. We are part of society. This is ours as well as the school board. So we should get to decide what we do with it. I mean, that question is not relevant if you're in a private school.
The students were angry. Then, some weeks later, the news came that now they're not just checking the people from the cafe, they are going to put down all of the school. So, we cannot go to school. I said, hey, now it's time to do some real things. They don't want me to study, they don't want me to work, I lose my job, and they don't want me to study. So what the hell should I do, man? Should I become a gangster or should I become a revolutionary? And somehow they are very similar. They are similar.
Yeah. There's something about them to me is like really beautiful. It's like, wow, I think I said to him, yo man, black people here, they really make poverty look good, because they're so poor and they struggle, but they look so good. So, and we talked about struggle and beauty, and he was like, people that struggle are always beautiful. People that struggle always have like some dignity and some beauty. There's some beauty or dignity in human beings that struggle, the other people that you recognize.
And not all activists appreciate the good liberal tradition of critical reflection.
I mean, in a way, I wouldn't support a movement who couldn't take criticism from someone who is sympathetic to what they're doing, to what they want to achieve.
But here is a point where I'm saying that I've had more problems with activists than with academics.
I think there is different ways to look at resistance, and resistance can be you are against, it is your opposite, you fight, but you can also do it like showing a new story, and that's something that's discussing during the last years very much.
Yeah.
En annan berättelse.
Yes.
What do we call berättelse?
Another story.
Another story.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think I'm more and more convinced that is very, very important. And then I also see all those transition movements going on today to go out and make gardens and build things and do things to show that there are other values than this consumerism, and that is driving the whole society and capitalistic system and everything. And you can show it in a very constructive and positive and joyful way.
You know,
Yeah.
let it go. Let things be here, you know, let it happen.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, if I were the director here, the studios would be...
Yeah, this is nice.
Yeah, this is what I would be doing. I would be saying, first of all, the studios are live work. So, you know, however you'd have to implement that legally, do it. Just because, you know, that's the only thing that's going to happen, or you're going to have an uproar with the students right now at this stage, you know. Or you have to basically cut access to the studios, and that's going to limit time when you can be working. And I don't think that's the right answer. Live work studios, embrace their history, do a fucking book about it. Like, make a nice publication, talk to people, document it, you know, record that history and build on it.
Well, that kind of total freedom, I mean, it's was very much a child of the times. I mean, they had that in art schools as well, very much.
We heard about Valand.
I heard about Valand. I mean, it was very much the same. So, well, it might come back, but I mean, it's
Or maybe it should be different nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, because also we experienced this kind
you
of...
should learn from history, but you learn from history that
But
you never learn from
what
history.
what you said, it's that total freedom is not workable for everybody. So
No.
you should find another type of structure. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like life. You try things and you get experiences and you can go.
There seems to be, I think, in the Scandinavian region, a very clear idea of what pedagogy is, that you just don't get in England. I mean, in England, I've never come up across anyone discussing pedagogy. We talk about learning, we talk about education. We don't use the word pedagogy. So my question is, what are you talking about? Because everything is learning experience. Everything you do, it's something, you know, you're building constantly. So what is it they're talking about, pedagogy? And so I've never really, haven't really got a clear idea of it.
So we have a saying in Swedish, which comes, I think, from the 60s movement. And they were very, I mean, they started out globally, you know, with commitment to protesting against the Vietnam War. But after some while, the intellectuals and artists, they came to embrace this statement, which is gräv där du står. So what does it mean? It means dig where you stand.
What is it? Maybe it would be a revolution somehow if I stopped using metaphors. You know?
Yeah, but of course there can be, if you speak of it in terms of a tool, there might be strategic reasons for, I mean, being both inside a frame of systemic knowledge and outside, because you can always claim access to information from different fields.
And I think my ideal is to have one leg inside of university and one leg outside. So that means by having a salary and an office, I will go to my office and I will present together with my colleagues and discuss theoretical perspectives on the activism, and that helps me to have a distance. And I think that's very helpful. But on the other hand, when I am active in the movements, I have also an emotional and bodily experience, which I think you cannot get from another way but involving yourself. And I don't think that movements and activist resistance is only about ideas, it's also about human beings, emotions and existence. So that's why I don't really understand how the others are doing it.
But also, Liana, you are also like working like that, with a leg in the university and then on the field.
Yes,
like
but now I have no leg longer in the university. Okay, yes, my research has always been some mixture about taking part in processes and writing about them. So I'm sort of action researcher, we call it, in my time.
Yeah.
No, but there is, it's much more, I mean, there are much more rituals and forms that you have to pass through within the academia in order to have a life there.
In the shift of when the university shifted into the student becoming a consumer, like the buyer of education, then I think the shift also took away some of the parts of responsibility. Like where is this consumer joining in and trying to reformulate this organization that they're buying from?
So, I mean, this is our concern also, because it's very easy to say that you want a kind of combination in between the systemic and alternative, but then when it comes to the practical thing, it clashes. And it clashes why? Because the economical and administrative things administrative constraints.
Is it the administrative
So maybe there
or is it the fact, the institutional? Well, what do you think?
What do you think? I mean, you should work on the administrative laws, which are not proper for new kinds of experiencing, or it's something else?
Yeah, I mean, for instance, in conversations that I've had in the past few weeks with Mick Wilson, who I think is quite wonderful, and we should be working along. I even said, you could be a fabulous mentor to me with this project. You have an enormous amount of knowledge, and that's something I'd love to build on. But the problem is he is under pressure, and he does have a job. And you have a contract you have to fulfill and follow guidelines and rules. But the thing I say to him is sort of like, yeah, okay, one of the problems here is Valand has an underground history of, having black clubs and just like a crazy social sphere. And students have been living here illegally, and, he's really trying to clean the place up, according to the pressures he's getting from above, right? So he's in that position. I really don't envy it. But what I say to him is, have you thought about, the interesting kind of social history around this place, and that you could actually, I hate to use the word, but harness it and use it to your advantage in promoting the school, and also maybe say to
activate in a way the history of the place.
Yeah, and do it in a legitimate way within the confines of whatever his institutional role is.
Well, I don't know. If you want to destabilize the system, maybe it's hard to do that. Maybe the system won't help you to do that. The system itself won't say, yes, please deconstruct me. The system says I want to be here, I want to stay like this, I want to have full control.
I'm quite optimistic about the creative nature of resistance. I don't think it's possible to appropriate it or institutionalize it. And that's good. But I think we have to realize that the forces of this existing world order, and they are of many interests. I'm not suggesting that there is one force behind it, but all these kind of forces interested in the existing kind of interest that we have in the day today, they are doing a lot of studies. They are systematically trying to understand how to control, manipulate, organize and appropriate resistance for their interests.
So you can see it here. This is supposed to be a social space.
Okay.
And it's all fire.
Is there a social without people?
No, exactly. It requires people and it requires activity.
And situation and being.
Yeah.
So what I can work with when I'm teaching in this not as formalized school, the other school, I can work with some collective experience or collectively researching things together or exploring things, taking them on. But the modern neoliberal, I must say, because it is, but the modern university, we can say only, works with individuals and individuality. I mean, it's about your individual learning outcomes. It's about your individual path through this education.
The problem is the way they learn stuff, the way they teach stuff here. And that's why it's not compatible with the streets, because as he said, they all sit in a row. There's a teacher there that fills everybody with knowledge. That's their philosophy, While we... While our philosophy is more like we learn through discussing, It's a more dialectical, and it's the way to learn stuff, which also brings us to the conclusion that we can't part from reality based on theories that we read, but we create theories based on the reality we live in.
At the university, to my experience, they are mostly interested in the production of texts and the production of student examina and the flow of money coming into the university. So as long as I get money for research projects, as long as I produce texts, they don't read the texts at the university. I'm speaking now about those that are the leadership level of the university. I don't think they're interested in what I'm writing about. They want to have high production numbers as Volvo or any other factory.
So I would say that looking in a 20, 30 year perspective, autonomy has decreased seen as a whole, in Swedish universities. But then if you do manage to attract funding, you are your own master in a way, at least for maybe 50% of your time.
And that is, I think, the only existence that we have is that we are both submitting to power and we are resisting.